Notes 4.4, graphing lines using equations. It says, look at the equations of the lines that are shown to you. Write down some observations. So what are the lines I'm asking you to look at? Let's take a look at, I'll highlight them. So let's look at this equation in number 1. And let's look at that equation in number 2. So those are the two equations that you're looking at. And I want some observations. Okay, so write down some of your observations. Okay, pause the video and write down some observations. Okay, make sure you pause it, write some thoughts down. So hopefully some of the things that you may have written down, I'm just going to scroll this down so I can see that other one in front of me. Okay, so y is not by itself. Hopefully maybe that's one of the ones that you wrote down. Maybe you wrote down there are x's, y's, and numbers. We've got some negatives and some positives. Okay. There's no exponents. Well, there are, but they're ones. Okay, there's nothing other than 1. Okay, so what we need to get to is when we're looking at these two equations and we're writing down our observations, we want to get to something called slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form looks like this. Y equals, notice y is by itself, mx plus b. So you have been dealing with that type of equation all along. We just didn't put a name to it. So y is all by itself. Okay, y is isolated. We have a number that is in front of our x term, and that m is our slope. Okay, that's our rise over run. And then our b that's on the end, if you look at what the name of this is called, it's called the slope-intercept form. This is the y-intercept. And I'm going to abbreviate that because I'm running out of space there. I'm going to call it the y-int. The y-intercept. Well, what does that mean? What does the y-intercept mean? It means where the graph, or I should say the line, where the line crosses the y-axis, to intercept some things, to cross. Okay? It's where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay? The y-axis is the vertical axis, the one that goes up and down. Okay, so let's deal with this and let's get some examples so you can see truly what this looks like. Okay, so it says graph the following lines on the set of axes below. So we have our equation that I highlighted in the beginning, 3y equals 12x minus 21. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get this equation in our slope-intercept form. In other words, we need to, what we're used to hearing, we need to isolate y. So we need to get y all by itself. So how do I start to get y all by itself here? Because right now I have this 3 times y. So how do I undo multiplying y by 3? I've got to divide everything by that 3. Now I've got y all by itself equals, now what is 12x divided by 3? That's 4x. And what's negative 21 divided by 3? That's negative 7. So right now we have that equation in our slope-intercept form. We have it in y equals mx plus b. So now what's the slope? The slope is that m, it's that number that's in front of the x. So what number right now is in front of the x? It's a 4. So my slope is 4. We are used to seeing slope as a fraction, right? We're used to seeing it as a rise over a run. So this is just saying that my rise is 4, but how can I make 4 a fraction? How could you make any number a fraction? You could put a 1 underneath it, that's right. So we'll make that a fraction, so we'll be able to do our rise over run when we start to graph it. And then, what's the y-intercept? So the y-intercept is that constant, or that number without the variable that comes after the x. So what number comes after the x? And that number is -7. So now we have the two pieces of information that we need, slope and the y-intercept, to be able to graph this line. So where do we start? Okay, we start with the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where we begin. So now, hopefully, that will help you remember that. The y-intercept is the B, the where we begin. Okay, so B for begin on the y-axis, because it's the y-intercept. So remember, B for begin. So where is -7 on the y-axis? Okay, so I'm going to put another note here. This is where we begin on the y-axis. So where is -7 on the y-axis? So here's our y-axis, and I start with my center point there, and I've got to go down to -7, which is right here. So I've got to put a point there. That's my beginning point. Now I start to do rise over run from that beginning point. So what was my rise? My rise is 4, and my run is 1. So from my beginning point, I'm going to count up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to kind of make a dot, small little dots there, so you can see where I'm rising up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to run 1. That's where I'm going to fill in a point. And now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do that same pattern. I'm going to rise up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to run 1 and put a point. You can do it again. The same pattern. Rise up 1, 2, 3, 4, and run 1. Put your point. Now grab your straight edge and let's draw that line in. Okay. Now mine is a little off, so I've got to make sure that I adjust that it goes through those points where I want it to go through. Now, like I said the other day in our other video, we've got to make sure we put arrows on the ends of our lines. That makes it a line, and then we put the original equation on as our label. The original, meaning the one that the problem gave us. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the next one. So I've got my equation. So I need to get the equation in that slope-intercept form. I've got to get it into y equals mx plus b. So I've got to isolate my y. So if I need to isolate the y, the first thing I'm going to have to do is add 2x to both sides. And moving from left to right, I'm left with -8y equals 2x minus 24. Y is almost by itself now. In order to isolate that y, I've got -8 times y. So how do I undo that -8 times y? I've got to divide by -8 to everything. And now do that division. So we've got y equals, I'm going to write it down here because now I'm getting it into that slope-intercept form. I've got y isolated. Now, simplify that -2/8x, and that simplifies to -1/4 x. And then again, simplify -24 divided by -8, which gives you +3. So now you can take a look. We have y is isolated equal to mx plus b. So now let's figure out, what is our slope? Remember, the slope is that number that's in front of the x. It's that coefficient, the m. So the slope is already in fraction form for us. So our rise over run is already set up for us, which is -1/4. And then our y-intercept, our b, where we begin, is 3. So this is where we begin on the y-axis. So let's start at that beginning point on the y-axis. B for begin. So 3. So here's my center point, and I've got to go up 1, 2, 3. There's my beginning point. Now is when I start to do the rise over run. So if my fraction, my slope is -1/4, that would indicate to me I'm going to have to go down 1 and to the right 4. Down because it's negative, down 1, and then right 4 because it's positive. So I go down 1, I'll make some small little dots. Down 1, right 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do it again. Down 1, right. Let's see, that didn't exactly go down 1, did it? Down 1, right 1, 2, 3. Oops, I'm off my graph. Okay, but that's okay. But now let's go back to our beginning point and let's reverse that. So instead of going down 1, right 4, I bet we still could do the same pattern in a little bit different direction and still get our line. We could go up 1 and back 1, 2, 3, 4. Holy smokes, that's still in that same line. So let's go ahead and grab that straight edge again. And let's draw in our line. And I need to make sure mine is adjusted as to exactly where I want it. Pretty good now. Put your arrows on the ends of your line and label it with your original equation. Like I said, the original is what the problem gave you to start with. Okay? All right, go ahead and flip the page. It says now determine the equations of the lines shown in the following graphs. So let's write our equation, our mx plus b. So we've got to find what the slope is of this line and what the y-intercept is of this line. So we can figure out where would it have begun. Find that y-intercept. Where did it begin? That's our b. So where did it begin? It began at 1, 2, 3, 4. So our b is 4. Now we've got to figure out the rise over the run if we've been doing that in class. So we could pick another point on this line to figure out. I think I'm going to pick this point here, and I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. Remember, we make that right triangle, and we went back 1, 2, 3, 4. So we went up 3 and back 4. So my rise over my run is 3 over -4. Well, that's my m. And that's my m, that's my slopes. And now we can fill in, because that's all this is a fill in the blanks. Blank x blank. So my slope, 3 over -4x, and then plus +4. See, I think we have one more. And then we're done. Again, write down our equation, mx plus b. I need the m and I need the b. So y equals blank x blank. We've got to fill in those two blanks. So where did we begin? On the y-axis. So let's find our b for our begin. So go to the y-axis. That's where it began. Began at 6. Now I need my slope, or my rise over my run. So I'm going to pick this point here, and I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and over 1, 2, 3. So my rise was 6, and my run was 3. Well, 6 over 3 simplifies to 2. So now I've got my two values that I can plug into my blanks. So what is my m? What's my slope? Make sure you plug the right numbers into the right blanks. The slope is 2, and the y-intercept is positive 6. We're going to spend lots more time with this and practice. Nice job.